shit, who's doing the intro?
You are.
Okay, I'm doing the intro. Welcome. Thanks for joining us here at Let's Unpack That, the podcast where we, two college graduates, bitch about things. Mostly books, sometimes life, and we try to make it sound reasonable and smart, and I like to think that we succeed. My name is Nina, and literally as soon as we started recording this, we started getting a poor connection. Are you kidding me? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Did you hear my brilliant introduction? Did you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Lydia.
That's Lydia. We're attempting to do this from across the nation. Not really, it's like 3 states, but still.
Goodness knows I'm not going to a library or a Starbucks or any other public Wi-Fi space to record this.
Well, you did it at your office there for a little bit. How did that go?
It was alright, but it was actually louder at the office than it was here in my bedroom.
Right.
And the internet was like, a little bit better. But there is really no privacy in my office. The walls are not soundproof and everything is glass, so you can see everything. So it's not the best environment.
We're both kind of screwed when it comes to the home office life. We'll have to go ahead and figure it out. Probably doesn't help the fact that I live out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I have no excuse, except for the fact that I don't pay for Wi-Fi. Cheap living, yo.
Hey.
Free Wi-Fi.
Ugh, that's the dream.
No, it's not.
No, it's really not. Pay for your own shit.
The dream is to be able to pay for your own high-speed internet.
Ugh, don't talk like that. It's a fantasy.
Speaking of fantasy, let's talk about Twilight.
Let's talk about Bella Swan and her entire fantasy life. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, so this week we read chapters 21 and 22 of Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. And we're nearing the end here. I think we're going to finish this up in 2 more episodes. Let's start with chapter 21. So in chapter 21, Bella is still in the hotel room waiting with Alice and Jasper, and she receives notice that Edward and the rest of the Cullen clan just got on a plane on their way to Phoenix. And then Bella gets a mysterious phone call that she thinks is from her mom, but is actually from Creeper James. And she has to pretend everything is fine, and makes her plans to escape the Cullens and meet up with James so that he won't hurt her mom.
Right, so kind of crazy things are happening now because now she's getting these phone calls. Here's my first thought. I think that after Alice had the vision of Bella's house, that we should have seen one of them going to scope it out. Not necessarily going to intercede or anything like that, but at least going to see what was going on. You know, because they had much better capacity to go and rescue Bella's mom if she were in danger than Bella did. And even then, like, just doing some recon on the house would have been good.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, my let's split up mentality is probably going to get me killed one day, either in real life or D&D. So...
I think the split the party mentality, if it's going to kill anybody, it's going to kill Nick's character in D&D, who just went back into an enemy house that we escaped.
By himself.
By himself.
Goodbye.
We'll see how that goes tomorrow. Can I just say that, like, some parts of this chapter are actually legitimately scary? Like, I've been complaining about the amount of power that the Cullens have this whole time, but here it gets real. Like, we're not talking about, like, vampires, powers, whatever it is. We're talking about legit stalking that potentially could happen in real life and has definitely happened before.
Right.
Fake phone calls and making you think that your family's in danger and pretending that your family is there. And it's really creepy. And I think the real parts, the parts of this where James becomes a real person, are the strongest parts and the scariest.
Oh, for sure, definitely. You know, not only is he immediately picking up on some of her fears, like how would James know that Bella and her mom were close unless they saw some kind of photos, you know, or did this kind of, you know, information on them? For all he knows, she left because they weren't, you know, compatible to live together anymore. But somehow he's figured out, okay, this is a pressure point that I can trigger. You know, like this is something that I could use against her, which is crazy and manipulative and very scary.
Yeah, and he probably found that out by going to her house, which means that he found out somehow where her house was, which in the age where the internet wasn't all that popular and wasn't all that good for stalking people and finding people's addresses is really creepy. Like, how did he get that information?
Well, didn't they say that Victoria was still in Forks, and so she was going through, like, the school's files?
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's some teen drama shit.
I know.
But Edward is coming.
Edward's coming, so it's all going to be okay.
It's all going to be okay.
And also, her human family isn't the only family that could get hurt here. So she already considers Alice, Jasper, the Cullens, her family, which I think is a little bit strange, seeing as she's hung out with them exactly twice, met all of them once, and I think in reality she's just referring to Edward here. Like, Edward losing anyone who's lost to Edward is a huge blow to him. So, like, you know, she could be afraid that he'll hold it against her, or, you know, she'll blame herself for it. I think right now her quote-unquote love for the Cullens is really conditional at this point. Anyway, it shifts definitely, but right now, in this moment, she's definitely not thinking, oh my God, I love my family so much. She's worried that, you know, something's going to happen to Edward.
Yeah. And in terms of her love for the Cullens being conditional, I don't think that she would find them as fascinating or consider them family this quickly if they weren't supernatural.
Oh, I totally agree.
That's what's speeding this up. Mm-hmm. I don't know why.
Oh, definitely.
We were talking about manipulation a couple minutes ago with James, but can we talk for a second about how manipulative Jasper is?
Oh my God. Yep. Rereading this now, being a true crime junkie, and having watched way too many forensic files, this is scary.
Yeah, page 425. My mind struggled against the fog, realizing what was happening. I forced my eyes open and stood up, stepping away from Jasper's hand. He's literally trying to chloroform her with magic.
Mm-hmm. That's what he is doing.
And he's already done it before.
I know.
He's doing it again.
Mm-hmm. I know. Nope, I know.
The constant mention of Jasper's emotional manipulation and how she feels different when he's not there and when he's not, like, in the room. Just let people feel.
Right.
And that's a big thing that I take away from this, is, like, humans need to feel in order to function.
Yep.
Drugging Bella does nothing for these chapters except cloud her thinking, so she goes and meets a stalker. When she is with James, she's thinking arguably the clearest that she's thought this whole book. She's actually scared.
Right.
And, like, her emotions and her physical responses that those emotions trigger, or the other way around, the physical reactions trigger the emotional responses, they make so much more sense here.
Oh, definitely. It's like she's finally away from not only Jasper's influence, but, like, the allure of Edward and, like, the secrecy of the Cullens and, like, everything that's mysterious about them. Mm-hmm. And so now it's kind of like stepping away from, again, you know, likening it to an abusive relationship. When you step away from that person for a little while and you realize, holy shit, like, this wasn't good. Or, you know, when you're coming down from, I don't know, being drunk and you're kind of realizing, oh my God, these are all the things that I did, and here's my senses coming back to me. You know, it's definitely a moment of clarity, because not only is she avoiding Jasper's emotions, and then, you know, but she's also out of range of Edward. She's thinking she's doing this for him, but he's not right in front of her, intoxicating her the way he has been. You know, the Cullens are all this very mysterious group, and now it's just her and this really fucking scary vampire. Mm-hmm. So definitely she's kind of coming to her senses now, I would say.
Yeah. And last time we were also talking a bit about autonomy and, by extension, empowerment. And I want to talk more about this a little bit later when we talk about self-sacrifice and Bella's farewell letter. But in this scene too, it's like, does she really have autonomy if somebody else is controlling her emotions?
Right. And then let's also talk about how condescending it is. Like, oh, you can't control yourself. Like, your hysteria is something that needs to be controlled for damage control. So let's calm you down. Like, the way that Alice looks at Jasper and is like, Jasper, you better fucking do something. It's like, hold on a minute. She's having some very real emotions here, and she's allowed to feel them. Not only is this just kind of like a scary moment overall, but then it's like, wait a second, this is actually a very condescending moment where I would think that she doesn't have any autonomy, because they're essentially squashing down her emotions and telling her not to feel, when in any other situation, this would be a perfectly normal time to feel, and to feel a lot of things.
Can I just tell you how much I hate the word hysteria?
Yeah.
Which they use in this.
So much.
Yeah, it's first of all, it's misogynistic in origin. Hysteria comes from hyster something, which refers to the womb, which refers to the menstrual cycle and the moodiness that comes with that.
Oh, good.
And also, like, that's where we get the word hysterectomy, the removal of the uterus.
Great.
I want to say it's Greek in origin, but I'm not sure on that. Hold on, let me check it now that I have internet.
Yeah, seriously. Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is hashtag problematic in so many ways. It's condescending, and it's, I don't know, is there a word for like being, I don't know, racist against a different species? I don't even know how that would work, but like
Speciesist?
Speciesist? Sure. Speciesist. And like saying like, oh, you can't survive on your own, so I have to take care of you, and like you can't be trusted with your own emotions. Yeah. Like we said, it's incredibly condescending all around.
Okay, I've got it. Merriam-Webster.
Great.
It's from English hysteric, adjective, which is from the Latin hystericus, which is from the Greek hysterikos, which is from hystera, meaning womb. And so this is from the Greek notion that hysteria was particular to women and caused by disturbances of the uterus.
I mean, my uterus causes me disturbances, but
Me
I don't
too,
think I get hysteric. I think I just get mad.
Yeah.
But righteously so?
Yeah. Anyway, hysteria is an outdated term. Use panic instead.
Yeah. You know, you picture her in this like mindset of like just not thinking, when really this is, you know, she's literally being stalked by a sadistic vampire. I think she's allowed to feel a little bit of panic.
Yeah.
Just a smidgen.
What, do you think he'll hear her thoughts?
No.
Even Edward can't do that.
That couldn't happen ever.
Her emotions will be too loud and cause her to excrete pheromones that attract the tracker to her.
I guess so. I guess that's the only reasonable explanation.
That was really gross. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I thought it was hilarious. You're fine.
I've told you that I see pictures of cadavers every day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Have I ever told you that I've really wanted to just watch an autopsy?
They're on YouTube.
No, but I want to watch it in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I wouldn't go
quite that
far.
Have you watched an autopsy video? Oh, okay.
No. I can send you some cat dissection videos if you want.
I will pass. I would rather see humans getting cut up than the cats. Thanks.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Okay. That's okay. That's fair.
Thanks. Goodbye.
That's very fair.
I've had my cat for 14 years.
Yeah.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Ooh. Let's stop talking about that.
Yes, instead of dead cats, let's talk about a phone call.
Yeah, and dead people.
And dead people.
Or people who are potentially about to be dead.
You know, so first the phone rings and Alice answers, and we're assuming that it's Renee on the line because she hands the phone to Bella and says, "Hey, it's your mom." Duh. So Bella takes the phone and she hears her mom saying, "Bella, Bella," you know, in a very panicked voice. But before she can say anything, James comes on the line, and dun, 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 wouldn't you believe it? The motherfucker has intercepted the phone calls somehow and is now speaking directly to Bella as a part of his game of tracking. And the idea is that he has Renee.
I thought that he was at that point using the VCR tape from her childhood to like use the sound of Renee calling Bella Bella, and she was never on the phone.
Yes, no, that's
he didn't
exactly
intercept the call. He just faked the beginning.
Right. That's essentially what I meant.
Okay.
Right. So that's what he did. He tricked Alice into handing over the phone. But then here's the weird thing is like he starts speaking to Bella, and I can only imagine that the cadence between a woman who is frightened and is calling for her daughter, it's very different than the tone of what we're seeing here with James. Like Meyer's likening it to a car commercial or something like that, like a very soothing, deep voice. And so I just have to say, how on earth did Alice not hear the difference? Like going from like a high pitch, like, "Oh my God, Bella," to like, "Oh, well, thank you, Bella." Like, come on. They're supposed to be able to be hunters and hear animals from miles away. What did she do? Just turn off her hearing so she could speak to her mom? She wouldn't do that either if she's trying to protect her.
Yeah.
That is, I have a theory forming. But anyway, Did you have anything else you wanted to add about that?
Just that I think this is the most efficient dialogue in the entire book.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, what, 2 pages? Great, cool. See you there.
Yeah, 2 pages. Boom, boom, boom. Here are my terms. See you there.
It's interesting because I think Bella, I mean, obviously she's acting very human in this moment because she is human, but it's like just kind of, again, going with the teenage recklessness that I think we don't recognize. I think the idea is that we're supposed to see Bella as being older, but again, in this moment, this is her being very much a teenager and being very reckless and thinking only I can fix this. Mm-hmm. Or, she thinks that maybe the Cullens don't care enough to try to help and save her mom, which I think is also false. But yeah, it's an interesting moment here.
Well, in hostage situations, don't the police just give the hostage taker what they want?
It depends. They try to negotiate with him,
Yeah.
They're like, hey, don't kill all these people. Come out and we'll talk about it. But in terms of giving over stuff that they want, they try to avoid it at all costs.
Okay. I probably watched too many TV shows where they give the hostage taker pizza because that's all they want.
Right.
I think that happened in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Maybe that's all I'm thinking of.
I was thinking of Bob's Burgers, one of the first episodes where the guy held up the restaurant.
Yes, that's actually it.
Lewis was like, "It's my daddy! That's my daddy in there!" And then she's like, "So anyway, tell me how your life is going."
Oh, man.
It's my daddy! I love Louise.
I would like to be a Louise, but I'm a Tina.
Oh, I think I'm very much a Louise. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. I'm a little bit of a Tina. I'm obsessed with horses, and I am really socially awkward, and I think I'm super with it and like a class A flirt, but then I look at my field of men and it is barren. So there you go. Anyway, enough of that there. Bob's Burgers, great show. Watch it if you haven't.
Yeah. So then, once Bella gets off the phone, she writes her farewell letter, which is basically a suicide note. Mm-hmm. And here I want to talk about martyrdom and self-sacrifice, because Bella definitely here considers herself a martyr and thinks that she is going to sacrifice herself for her mom.
Right.
She goes to the ballet studio with the expectation that, she's going to die, but her mom's going to live.
Right.
She's sacrificing her own well-being for her mom to hopefully, but not guaranteed, be let go, and so the Cullens don't get hurt. We could go into the Christian symbolism of Bella as a disciple who's getting martyred, and the Cullens as a holy family. We already talked about Carlisle as Jesus. And in a way, here, Bella is kind of dying for his message that vampires and humans can be friends.
Right.
She's planning to die for that cause by dying for a vampire.
Right. And also for her mom, though. I mean, it's arguable that she wouldn't have gone anywhere with him if she hadn't thought that James had Renee. So I don't know if it's necessarily dying in the place of Edward. I'm wondering if it's, okay, on top of this, I can end it, but also he has my mom. Because it wasn't until, quote unquote, Renee called her that she was like, nope, I gotta do it.
Yeah, and I think we can say that she is ultimately sacrificing herself for her mom, but she is also doing it to keep the vampires safe. In her letter, she writes, "I can't bear it if anyone has to be hurt because of me, especially you." And she's referring to Edward there. So she still is dying so that he won't be hurt.
Right. So, and one other thing was, because I also was looking at the idea of a martyr and trying to see exactly kind of what this idea was, because I feel like I heard the term a lot, but I wanted to know what the official definition was. So, of course, I turned to the one and only official resource to use about researching anything ever, Wikipedia. And Wikipedia said that it is a martyr. A martyr is someone who suffers persecution and death for advocation, renouncing, refusing to renounce, or refusing to advocate a belief or cause as demonstrated by an external party. This refusal to comply with the presented demands results in punishment or execution of a martyr by the oppressor. So in this situation, we could see her refusing to comply first with the Cullens' plans for her to keep her safe and move her to a new location, and two, refusing to make it a hard game for James. And, I was kind of going back and forth like, okay, what is she really doing here? And I realized it's a little bit of both. So not only is she defying, the Cullens' idea of her of being this helpless human, but she's also saying, okay, I'm not going to make it a game for him anymore. And he even says at one point, like, oh, I thought this one was going to be harder. And while she's not, necessarily considering it at the time, she really is kind of going against what his whole shtick here is, which is, making it this hunt, making it this like game for him to find her and hunt her down and finally take her. Mm-hmm. So she's openly defying the Cullens while walking into the lion's den. And so, we could go ahead and say, yeah, this is kind of how she's not only dying for her own cause, but also not only dying for the vampire's cause, but also saying like, hey, I'm a human, I'm going to take action for myself, as, ill-advised as that may be. And I think that also kind of goes along with Edward's perspective of her, or how she believes that Edward views her, because, he views her as very much a helpless human and, can't take care of herself. But, she has been this adult in her own life for so long. When you go onto Wikipedia, there's this neat little table that you can look at that says like steps of being a martyr. So first is like a hero. And the first step is a person of some renown who is devoted to a cause believed to be admirable. So here we could say, okay, this is the idea that Bella is stronger or different than other humans. And she, from the beginning has said, I'm different, maybe not in the same way, maybe not in the same positive light, but she has always said that she's different. And then people who oppose that cause, which is step 2, that could be James saying, you can't run with vampires. You can't do this. You can't do that. Like, you're just a weak human and I'm going to make you my prey. And then we see the foreseeable risk, which is step 3 in this table. And Bella sees that, okay, if I go forward from here, I'm going to get hurt. I'm possibly going to die. I'm probably going to die. Despite that being discouraging for her, we reach step 4, which is, the hero continues despite knowing the risk, out of commitment to the cause, not only that she is a human, she has her own power, but also to protect the people that she loves. And then we get to death and audience response, which, in this version of Twilight does not happen. We don't see Bella dying. We see her attacked, but we see the Cullens arriving enraged and killing James as a result of that attack. So it really is kind of the perfect little, again, a very Christian belief of this, martyr. It's very interesting.
And I was going to say, as you were saying that, I noticed that this might be the biggest change in Bella's character since the beginning, because in the beginning she was considering herself a weak, mere human and accepting the protection of Edward and accepting that he was stronger than her. And here she's taking things into her own hands despite knowing her weaknesses.
Plot twist: Twilight is actually about self-actualization and personal growth.
That's a bit much to say from this, but sure, if you want to believe that.
Sure.
Like I've said it before and I'll say it again. Don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. You do not have to die for anyone. You don't have to sacrifice yourself for anyone. It is not a requirement or a condition of love to minimize yourself and to sacrifice until there's nothing left.
Right.
And with that, I want to bring some research into this.
Ooh.
Because I went to, you go to Wikipedia, I go to JSTOR.
And thus our friendship in a nutshell.
Yep.
That's it, folks.
I wonder if I tweeted JSTOR, they would probably reply to me, right? I follow them.
Are you going to tell them that you're using their website to research Twilight, or are you going to leave that out?
I don't know yet. We'll see.
Okay. We'll keep you posted, dear listeners.
Yeah. Just know that JSTOR is very important to me, and I follow them on Twitter.
Noted.
All right.
It's okay. I still follow AP Style Book and like all the AP grammar stuff.
Wow.
And they just got rid of like the SIC little thing to say if it was misspelled or whatever, which is so wrong on so many levels. But anyway, go with the research before I start crying.
We're not going to get angry over AP Style today. Not today.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Nope.
The Oxford comma exists.
All right, so I found this article by Francesca Righetti and other authors called Low Self-Control Promotes the Willingness to Sacrifice in Close Relationships, from Psychological Science, Volume 24, Number 8, published in 2013. And it says, and I want to read you this unfortunately long quote from the abstract, but here it is. Although previous theories and research have suggested that human behavior is automatically driven by selfish impulses, e.g. vengeance rather than forgiveness, the present research tested the hypothesis that in close relationships, people's impulsive inclination is to be pro-social and to sacrifice for their partner, to pursue the interests of the partner or the relationship at some costs for their self. Results from 4 studies demonstrated that people with low self-control relative to those with high self-control reported greater willingness to sacrifice for their close others.
Interesting. That doesn't sound like anyone we know. Certainly not a book character we've been reading about for the past, 6 months?
Yeah, what? Self-control? Autonomy?
What?
What are we even doing here?
What?
Yeah, so I thought that this might be another sign that Bella doesn't really have autonomy, or at least feels like she doesn't, is that she's taking such an extreme sacrifice.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
Like, from her perspective, she has no choice but to go save her mom, especially since she's been saving her mom all of these years, since she could do chores.
The other thing that's interesting is that James even mentions that she's not like other humans, that he was noticing that there were a select few that aren't driven by self-interest, I think is what he says, which is in the next chapter, which we're getting to, but it's an interesting addition there to that whole idea of being like low selfishness or low self-interest, is that Bella literally personifies that. So essentially after that, she makes a plan, not necessarily a full plan, but she makes a plan to leave. And her plan centers around the fact that they're going to the airport to pick up Edward. Bella essentially gives them the slip and gets on a shuttle to the Hyatt, and then she grabs a taxi and calls James from there, which was essentially what he instructed her to do, was to get home, call this number, and then I'll tell you where to go. And then in a really quick turn of events, she's there at the ballet studio, and she learns that her mom is not being tortured, and that James actually tricked her by using, again, that video recording of Bella's mom calling her name, which in a way is kind of backfires on James, because I think he was wanting her to be angry and to fight back. But in this instance, she's actually grateful that he hadn't taken her mom. And then the torture ensues.
So we're into chapter 22 now. Bella has accepted her fate.
Sort of.
Yeah, sort of. I find it hard to believe that she would go into this situation thinking that she would come out of it as a vampire, and yet some small part of me thinks that maybe she thought this was her opportunity to get turned.
I don't know. I think she was assuming that she was going to die. I don't know if she necessarily thought that she had a chance of turning.
Yeah, but now she knows about the vampire venom, and she knows it's at least possible, even if it is very painful. I don't know. I don't think that was her on the surface motive, or even maybe not a conscious motive, but I can't help but think, like, this is a very convenient situation to get bitten. Which, you've been reading the gender swap version. Is this when Beau becomes a vampire? Because I know that he becomes a vampire at the end of the first book, thus avoiding the whole drama of the next 3 Twilight books. But, like, is this how it happens?
I believe so, because I remember Meyer saying that she, at one point when I was really into it and researching everything, I believe she said that she debated back and forth on turning Bella into a vampire at this point. She really wanted to, but she didn't feel she could. So when she wrote that gender swap, she was like, okay, this is how that would have happened. So as far as I can tell, that's exactly what we're seeing. I just think it's funny that Jasper's whole calming mechanism, like, backfires royally. Instead of calming her down and, calming her anxiety and, like, letting her think, like, okay, it's going to be okay, it actually hardens her resolve, and that just makes her more determined to get to her mom and to save her, which I find hilarious. Like, way to go, Jasper. Nice job. But at the end of the day, it's also kind of badass. Like, it shows just how determined and dangerous Bella has the capability to be.
Like, she can be courageous. She can think for herself, and she's capable of doing a lot more than she gives herself credit for, especially in the rest of the book. Like, despite the fact that 2 pages in, she gets her leg broken and is, like, unconscious by the end of the chapter.
Wah, wah.
She, like, accomplishes quite a bit here.
Yeah, she does. Like, she thwarts James's whole idea of making it like this thrill of the chase. She does manage to elude, Alice and Jasper and get to where she needs to go, which is kind of incredible because, like, these are vampires. They know things.
But this also kind of brings into my theory that I realized while I was reading that and then kind of pieced together. So here's the thing. Alice has the vision of Bella in the ballet studio. You know, we know that she sees her there. Here's my theory and how that relates back to Alice. I think that she also sees this one outcome. I think Alice lets everything that happens in the next couple pages happen. Like she allows it to happen. And hear me out. So Alice has seen the future, right? And she sees that Bella will go to the studio and be attacked. But what if she also sees that this is the only way to avoid her entire family getting hurt? You know, in this situation, Bella's really the only collateral damage. And, you know, she sees this vision of Bella, so they're like, oh, really protective of her. And then what does she do? She, like, loses Bella within the next 100 words, like, promptly loses Bella. But did she do it on purpose? And so my idea here is that she sees the end in sight. She's seeing the end of James, the end of the separation with her family, and she's also seeing her goal overall realized. Bella becoming a vampire. Alice has been number one saying Bella is going to become a vampire. I've seen it. It's going to happen. She's been saying that from before we even met her. She thinks that this is going to happen. She believes this is how it's going to happen and that it's inevitable. So when she allows Bella to escape, she's essentially killing two birds with one stone and allowing that turning to happen, separating the family ending and the fight to the death to end. Her initial plan, I believe, was to let Bella go, quote unquote, go, and let her follow her. But she doesn't realize that Bella's actually going to give her the slip and actually escape. So the original plan was to be immediately on her tail, following her. That way, I'm sure Bella wouldn't get so beat up. But that doesn't work because suddenly she's actually gone and they're suddenly behind about 5 minutes. That idea is thwarted by her actually escaping, and they follow it, obviously, as soon as possible to the ballet studio. And then by then, James would have almost killed Bella, but by then they could have saved her by turning her, and then they could, you know, arguably kill James. So it's a huge gamble. Alice knows that the future is subjective, but she does believe that what she sees is going to happen. She hasn't seen any other outcome yet. She sees that Bella is going to become a vampire, and she thinks this is how it's all going to end. This is how it has to be. So she's allowing it to happen. And, you know, I think that also goes back to the being in the hotel room with that phone call and her not stepping in when she heard a different person speaking on the phone. Like, come on, there's no way she could not have heard that. And so what I think is she overheard the entire phone call and thought, okay, here's how this goes. We're going to let her do her thing. And then this is going to end. Because I do not believe there's any possible way that this vampire who, you know, they're supposed to have like the super strength and hearing abilities, you know, hear Bella's heartbeat from across the room. How the hell did she not hear that it was James on the line and not her mother? Mm-hmm. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. I think Alice let the whole thing happen. I think she absolutely saw that outcome and said, great, all right, here we go.
That's really interesting. It also brings in the mechanic of Alice's visions, because in a way, has the least powerful power. Edward can fucking read minds. Jasper can use any emotion and manipulate anybody. But Alice only sees the path that people are on as they are on it.
Or the moment they decide to do something that puts them on that path.
Right, yeah.
Right.
And so it's very specific in that way. We could assume that Alice lets this happen. We could also assume that she thought that Bella going with them to the airport and Bella going with the Cullens would result in the confrontation with James that she saw in the ballet studio. There's still that disconnect between what actually happens and how you get to the end result, because there are multiple ways to that end result.
Right.
But yeah, that is a really interesting theory about Alice.
And it would totally kind of change the trajectory of this character because, you know, she loves Bella like a sister, absolutely. But at this point, she's probably already seen this is everything that's going to happen. It puts this kind of level of not only badassery, but also kind of a double crossing there because not only is she risking Bella dying, she's risking Edward's anger.
Yeah.
That being said, she would have to really control her thoughts around Edward if that were the case. So it's a huge gamble on Alice's part. And I think that it shows this really very clever and cunning side of her if that were true, rather than really the demure and very like soft, not really soft spoken, but you know, we get this idea of her being like very petite and small, like a dancer, and like she's very delicate. But this kind of turns the tables and say, oh shit, like wait a minute, like she has some kick ass to her.
Yeah. And bringing into this the fact that like now we know that James recognized Alice, and Alice has been the only one to escape James, and the only way that she escaped him was by becoming a vampire. She might be trying to pull that same trick with Bella.
Even though she doesn't necessarily remember that that's how she escaped James.
Well, I think she knows that turning saved her.
Sure, yeah.
And she knows that turning would save Bella.
Ugh, I have this whole plot line in my mind. In any case, here's my idea. Here's my vision of Dark Alice TM. We'll go and cut all the way back to the baseball game. This is just my conjecture of how I would have written this series.
It's fan fiction time.
Oh my god. I wonder if anyone would read it. I would do it too if I thought someone would read it.
Oh, people would read it.
Oh, don't give me ideas. Let's jump back into my own little time warp and see how we refix this story. Let's revamp Twilight.
Revamp.
Let's say that the way that I would do it is I would completely rip out the last 100 pages or so of this book, and I would extend it to where, you know, there's still this kind of danger where Edward's aware that James is hunting her, but in the end it seems like there's a resolution made. You know, somehow they're able to go ahead and quote unquote make some resolution. But what they don't know is that on the flip side, Alice is still speaking to James, trying to get information about herself from him. So let's picture her feeding information about Bella to James, adding to his hunt. So here's how it makes it more complicated, more exciting for him. He now has a traitor on the inside of essentially that prey circle that he's trying to get into. He has the weak link and is saying, hey, I want to go ahead and make this work. Let's draw it out and see if I can't corner her, catch her totally by surprise, and finish this track. Meanwhile, Alice is probably thinking, okay, if I feed him little bits of unimportant information, he's not going to know anything. And this is very hard to do with her visions being so subjective and changing all the time. So he would have to work very carefully and very quickly. But if her guard was down and she wasn't necessarily monitoring James's activity, he could do it, you know? So she could think she's feeding him irrelevant bits of information, or she could be deliberately trying to kill Bella because it's her bargaining chip in order to get more information about herself. Either way, let's say that that's what she's trying to do. And then, you know, at some point that all comes to a head where we realize Alice has been trying to figure out information about herself. She has to contend with Edward and the rest of the Cullens, and there's all of this character building and angst and saying, okay, she has to go against her family or, you know, never learn who she was. And I think it could have been a really, really amazing opportunity to really develop Alice's character beyond what we're seeing here, because everything in this book is so compliant. But if we'd extended this conflict past the last 100, 200 pages of this book and made it maybe into 2 books or 3 books of this like threat of James and Alice potentially going rogue or betraying the rest of the Cullens, like how fascinating would that story have been, really developing that? And then how much could we have seen of the rest of the characters who are trying to stay united, trying to be strong, but then they have a traitor in their midst? And it wouldn't necessarily be this whole romance of like, oh, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? Let's have sex. No, we can't. Wait, I'm pregnant. Oh my God, I just got ripped open by like this dangerous demon baby thing. No, it's more like this whole time she's been trusting the wrong person. And whether or not Alice meant to betray her or not, she does, all in order to find out a little bit more about herself. And that is my vision of Dark Alice.
It almost sounds like you want a version of Twilight from Alice's perspective.
I would love that. But just not with this ending.
Yeah.
I don't want her to be so compliant. I would love to have fully developed characters for all of the Cullens. Like, I get it. Like, it was a romance, that it was what it was meant to be. It was not meant to be this deep. But, like, I honestly think Meyer has such potential to develop these characters so well. She has this really, really good foundation that she could have built upon and made it a really excellent
series. And I think it's tragic that she didn't. How badass would that have been? And how many different perspectives could we have gotten, and how many different influences could we have had as children while reading these? It would have been a really cool epic. And I stand by that. I think Meyer has potential to do a lot more. She didn't, and she killed it. And now, I don't know what she's doing now, but geez, she's kind of the butt of everybody's joke.
I think for the final episode, since we'll only be talking about the epilogue in that one, that's just the way the chapters work out, we should find some fan fiction to recommend. Because fan fiction does justice where the actual novel often doesn't.
Oh my gosh. I'm totally going to do it.
Yikes moments?
In all of this, I actually forgot to choose a yikes moment. I think it's probably just Alice not hearing James over the phone, which translate into she planned it all. What about yours?
My yikes moment is when Bella gets on the shuttle to the Hyatt. And I want to read this to you, all right? It says, "A shuttle to the Hyatt was just closing its doors a few feet behind me. Da-da-da-da-da. This is the shuttle to the Hyatt," the driver said in confusion as he opened the doors. Just excellent dialogue. Excellent.
Love it. Wow, I feel like I got a lot off my chest today. This was like therapeutic, I'm good. Like, let's go run a mile, Not really.
Yeah, let's not.
Let's not. I'm tired. I worked out yesterday. My horse was being an asshole today. I'm good. I'm going to go drink some more wine and get something to eat and go to bed.
Nice. Yeah, so as always, you can find us on Twitter at Let's Unpack Pod and SoundCloud, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and as of today, the day we're recording this, Stitcher.
Woo! And a shout out to all of our new listeners. I went ahead and posted about this podcast on one of my groups on Facebook. And I had a pretty positive response. So if any of you are listening from the Facebook group and saw my posts, thank you so much for listening and catching up and being here. I really appreciate it. And, if you're from that group, please stay sexy and don't get murdered. And just thanks again for jumping on and hearing us out here. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot.
Yeah, thank you to all our listeners.
All 5 of you.
No.
I'm kidding. There's at least 6. All right. Well, in the interest of all of that and more, thank you, listeners. Thank you so much for joining us. Tweet us. Talk to us. Now that we're getting close to the end of it here, if you have books that you want us to read or any kind of comments or feedback, feel free to jump in and tell us. I know you guys, are probably thinking, oh, what if they analyze this book? Because who doesn't want to listen to the two of us bitching and drinking wine and talking about stuff that potentially ruined our childhoods? It's great.
I was at my parents' house this weekend, and I brought back a bunch of books that I read as a middle schooler and early high schooler. So I brought back The Hunger Games. I brought back From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. I
love that book.
A Wrinkle in Time. I brought back Percy Jackson, too.
Oh, that would be fun, because I've actually never read them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's it.
That's it.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Cool. I'm going to go drink and eat some food. See you later, guys.
All right.
Have a good one. And as always, do it for the vamps.